So there was a Newsweek article that came out. Dr. Fauci backed controversial Wuhan lab with millions of U.S. dollars for risky coronavirus research. Okay, so what does this story really mean? Let me give it to you in case you haven't heard. Last year, the NIH, or actually the National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Diseases, led by Fauci, funded scientists at the Wuhan Institute of Virology and other institutions for work on, listen to this phrase, gain of function research on bat coronaviruses. I'll explain that here in a second. In 2019, with the backing of National Institute of Health Aid, the National Institute of Health committed $3.7 million over 6 years for research that included some gain of function work. The program followed another 3.7 five-year project for collecting and studying bat coronaviruses, which ended in 2019, bringing the total to $7.4 million. Our taxpayer dollars went to that laboratory in Wuhan. Now, many scientists have criticized gain-of-function research, which involves manipulating viruses in a lab to explore their potential for infecting humans. The reason why scientists have been against this is because it creates a risk of starting a pandemic from an accidental release. Fauci did not respond to Newsweek's request for comment. All he said was most emerging human viruses come from wildlife, and these represent a significant threat to public health and biosecurity in the U.S. and globally, as demonstrated by SARS epidemic and current COVID-19. Scientific research indicates that there is no evidence that suggests the virus was created in a laboratory. Yeah, that doesn't answer the question, because nobody is really claiming that this was created in a laboratory. What they're claiming is this was being researched in a laboratory and somebody got sloppy. Exactly what other scientists warned about. The NIH research consisted of two parts. The first involved surveillance of bat coronaviruses and had a budget of 3.7. Now, the surveillance of the bat coronavirus means they were watching it and they needed to collect samples. We know that that's what the Chinese did. At least they played that video. Stu, when did that video play? Was it in December or November? We played it on one of our episodes. And we'll have to find it later. But we played it on one of our episodes where do we have it? Just run it in the background because I think it's all in Chinese. This was what was on the TV network, the national network of China. And here you see the scientists in there. These bats live in caves that only places that scientists can go can reach them. We can find the most ideal coronavirus. Most bats living here are horseshoe bats. If we keep our skin bare, we can get into contact with the feces, which is highly risky here. Okay, that's what they're saying in Chinese.
Is it only just there that get contact with feces is highly risky? I feel like that's a statement you can kind of make really for any situation.
On bats in general, yeah. I think bats in general.
Humans, dogs, really anything. Yeah. You should try to not touch the feces of things. General policy.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a pretty good rule of thumb. Anyway, okay, so that's the first part, and we know that they did that. The second phase, this is the real problem, included in additional surveillance work, but also gain of function research. Now, what is gain of function? Well, here's what the proposal from the NIH says. We will use S protein sequence data, infectious clone technology, in vitro and in vivo infection experiments, and analysis of receptor binding to test the hypothesis that percent divergence thresholds in S protein sequences predict spillover potential. Now, I'm a doctor and a scientist, so I, of course, know what that means. But in case you don't, spillover potential is just referring to the ability of the virus to jump from animals to human. And that requires that the virus be able to attach to the receptors in our cells as humans. So this is what happened with SARS It is able to bind at our receptors in our cells, in our lungs, and other organs. This is also what COVID-19 is doing. It's a jump from the bat into humans. Now, here's the problem. The infectious disease expert at Rutgers University, his name is Richard Ebright. He says these are experiments that would enhance the ability of bat coronavirus to infect human cells and laboratory animals using techniques of genetic engineering. In the wake of the pandemic, he says this is kind of noteworthy. Along with 200 other scientists, they have been vocal against gain-of-function research because it risks creation of a pandemic through accidental release from a lab. Now, here's the problem that I have. Stu, do you remember we talked to, I think his name was Ken Albach. This is 20 years ago, maybe? Yeah. I'm looking for him to see if he's still alive. But he was one of the first defectors of the Soviet Union after the wall came down. He couldn't wait to get out and go to the West. He was a guy who accidentally became the head of the bioweapons program. And what they did was communist countries go and they look for viruses that can't be cured. Then they experiment them on them to see how they can make them in an aerosol or make it spread faster as a bioweapon. The United States, however, does the exact opposite. We do look for viruses, but we look for cures. We don't develop any bioweapon, at least this is what we believe. We don't develop any bioweapon unless we have a cure. So we go and we'll look at Ebola, but we try to cure it. Then we may say, can we make this into a weapon as long as we have the cure? Soviets and other Chinese communist countries, they go the opposite way. They try to make it more virile and more deadly and then weaponize it. They don't believe that anything with a cure is a good weapon. So the other problem is the reason why this guy became the head of the bioresearch weapon program is because his boss died as they were trying to weaponize Ebola. They're extraordinarily sloppy, and they have poor protocol in communist countries, unlike the United States, which leads the world in this kind of security. Why would we give money to a weapons lab that we had already said is trouble? Why would we give money for something on research to a Chinese government? If the NIH wants to study this thing, then study it here. Why would we give it to China, which has already proven itself to be unworthy of being able to handle this kind of stuff? Now, here's the biggest problem. The media is jumping through hoops. Washington Post, was the new coronavirus accidentally released from a Wuhan lab? It's doubtful. Yahoo, Trump administration pulls NIH grant for coronavirus research over ties to Wuhan lab at the heart of the conspiracy theories. Vox, why these scientists still doubt the coronavirus leaked from the Chinese lab. CNN, New York Times, top administration officials have pushed intelligence agencies to link coronavirus to Chinese labs. Why are these organizations so eager to say what Trump is now saying? Friday, he pulled back from the lab. What happened was they had a ban on this that Obama had put in. It lapsed, and Fauci just went through and did it secretly. That's the story, at least at this point. So why does the press not want this to be true? Is it possible that Jeff Bezos with the Washington Post has too many business deals with China? Is it possible that NBC Universal, which is owned by Comcast, has too many business deals? They were going all in. They've got a new theme park that is opening in Beijing, is supposed to open this year. Also, the Chinese consul general made a visit to Comcast headquarters on February 2017 as the travel restrictions began to be imposed due to the coronavirus. The same travel restrictions that China and the WHO are trying to shoot down. When that was happening, that's when Comcast met with the consul general at their headquarters. After that meeting, China released a statement, and they specifically talked about the theme park for Universal. Is it possible that there is some sort of a deal that goes on there? Is it possible that something else is happening with Comcast and our media? Is it possible the reason why Google and YouTube are censoring anything? How can we possibly talk about this if YouTube and Google say that this is a conspiracy theory? I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't know what I know about the coronavirus. This is the weirdest news story. The more I read, the more I know, the less I know. I'm not sure of any fact anymore. Are you? Stu? Are you sure of anything at this point?
It's a really limited
in the coronavirus
amount of things you can be entirely sure of. Like, I would have probably said pretty recently that I was pretty sure that the most common effect of this coronavirus was fever. The most common symptom was fever. And then a report comes out. It's like, actually, it's not 80% of people who are coming in that have fever. It's 30%. It's like, wait a minute.
Well,
like, this is the most basic
We have
thing.
drones. They're affecting. The president walks from room to room and he gets his fever. He gets his temperature checked.
Exactly.
I thought that was the first sign.
And again, like, we may find out that study's wrong and that it was right all along, but they shake your foundation on this constantly.
All the time.
It's very difficult to understand what is going on. And each new day there's a new study. Like, I'm pretty sure right now, right as I say this, I'm pretty sure that the idea that you're going to get this outdoors in almost every circumstance is very unlikely. Like, if you're in a place that has good ventilation and you're outdoors, winds blowing, like, unless you're screaming into somebody's face or sneezing into somebody's face and they're breathing in heavily, like, the chances of it happening are very, very low. It seems like that is,
especially if you're 6 feet away, for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly.
And it's a sunny day, a hot sunny day.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like
all the research lines up behind that right now. However, am I sure that next week they're going to come out with a story that the only place you can get it is outside? I wouldn't be surprised at this point. I would not even be surprised.
Right. I mean, This is the craziest thing. We have shut down the entire world. We are now banning certain theories on this, and that's all we have. We don't have the truth on this. We have no idea what the truth is of the coronavirus. Science hasn't been settled on this. So it's so incredibly frustrating, and I think that's what leads people to say, conspiracy theories, or leads people to say, enough is enough. Enough is enough. You guys still don't have any idea, and you're telling me I could die if I go to work, but I got news for you. I'm going to die. My business is going to die. My children are going to be living in the poorhouse if you don't let me go back to work. You guys don't know what the hell you're even talking about. And I can't trust the media to tell me the truth. I think that is happening in America, and somebody needs to address it.